Hi, it's John, and welcome to the channel. 4:38 a.m. Wednesday, November 26th. I hope you're having a great start to your Wednesday morning. Minus 11 Celsius in Calgary right now. Thank goodness I've got my big blue mug of coffee to help keep me warm today. Hope you do as well. Hope you're warm wherever you may be today. And today I'm going to show you some video. Masterful job by Pierre Poilievre calling out Mark Carney in question period yesterday over and over and over again as Carney the coward cowers in behind Scott McKinnon, the Liberal House Leader. Scott McKinnon, I believe that's the name. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was masterful, wonderful job here. Now, Carney did answer a couple of questions, but for the most part, Poilievre says he can't even stand up. He hides under his desk. He needs to wait for this. So I got up this morning and I thought, I want to do a video based on this story right here, but I want to do it in the words of not myself, but Premier Danielle Smith, Mark Carney, Pierre Poilievre, maybe David Eby, on why I'm so skeptical about this announcement. It's going to be the biggest announcement in Canada since the election. This big announcement tomorrow about a memorandum of understanding between Mark Carney and my Premier Danielle Smith to get a pipeline to the coast. And I continue to say there will never be a shovel in the ground. It's not going to happen. And Poilievre did all my work yesterday. This article, it's the same article in the National Post. Alberta deal will create necessary conditions for potential pipeline to BC, not a guarantee. This was the exchange Poilievre had with Mark Carney yesterday in question period.
Speaking of Canadian interest, this Prime Minister opposed the pipeline from Alberta to the Pacific, just like his Liberal predecessor blocked that same pipeline. On Thursday, he'll make one of his grand announcements, waving around a meaningless so-called memorandum of understanding. If it's anything other than a public relations ploy, why won't he say, on what date will construction begin on a pipeline from Alberta to the Pacific?
Hear, hear. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, sometimes the question reveals everything. The memorandum of understanding that we're negotiating with Alberta creates necessary conditions but not sufficient conditions because we believe in cooperative federalism. We believe the government of British Columbia has to agree. We believe that First Nations right holders in this country have to agree and support. All stakeholders have to back. That's one Canada.
Carney says this so-called memorandum of understanding with Danielle Smith and the Alberta government, whatever the hell that is, provides necessary conditions but not sufficient conditions to build a pipeline, which is just government doublespeak. It means nothing. What it means is there's no commitment from Mark Carney for a pipeline. There's no commitment from the Liberal Party for a pipeline. There's no commitment from the Government of Canada for a pipeline. And it has me asking the question again, why are we begging of these people for our prosperity here in Alberta? We could have that on our own. And it provides the Liberals an opportunity to use their vetoes, which are David Eby and the people he drags out in front of the cameras. Here they are. He drags the costume people out in front of the cameras and the microphones to say they don't want a pipeline at all. He's going to announce tomorrow that you get our blessing, Danielle. We're allowing you, Alberta, who's rich in natural resources, to get your stuff out of the ground. You go talk to David Eby and these people who don't want a pipeline. Your job to do that, which does absolutely nothing. So I get up this morning and I think I'm going to do a video on this story I showed you earlier from the National Post and the Calgary Sun. I'm going to do it without saying a word, and I'm going to use clips, and here they are right here. It takes me time to get stuff together in the morning. It took me an hour and a half to go through all these video clips to find the little bits and pieces I wanted to use for my video today. Some people are really lazy. Some people on YouTube, they introduce a video and they run 30 minutes of CTV. And they collect a check at the end of the month. I don't do that. I actually work here for this stuff. I'm not a lazy person. It takes me time to do these things in the morning. So what I'm doing right now is something I don't normally do. I'm going to play you some extended video from CPAC and yesterday's question period. Not a long section here. And I'm going to cut out all the yelling and screaming just to shorten it up. I'm not taking out any context here. I don't normally do this, but this was good. And Poilievre was great on this. And watch Carney when he's sitting behind his House Leader there, cowering as Poilievre calls him out over and over again on this issue, and he gets no commitment from Carney on the pipeline.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister apparently hasn't read our Constitution, which indicates that the federal government alone has jurisdiction over pipelines that cross borders. Let me quote 9210. Federal jurisdiction applies to works and undertakings that connect one province to another or extend beyond provincial limits. In other words, it is exclusively the federal government's decision on whether to approve a pipeline. It was this federal government that blocked the last pipeline. So can he confirm, once and for all, is he deciding unilaterally to give veto to NDP BC Premier to block a project that Canada needs?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Speaker, last week we talked about that big, long, giant pipeline of hot air that animated the country for 10 years during the government of which that member was a member. Not a single milliliter of oil reached Tidewater under the Harper era. In a Liberal government, oil exports have increased. Oil exports to Tidewater, thanks to the purchase of the Trans Mountain Pipeline, have increased. Canada is a conventional and a renewable energy superpower, and that will continue.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it really is embarrassing that a Prime Minister who claimed that he was the man with the plan cannot even stand up and debate me about pipelines on the floor of the House of Commons. He's afraid. The previous Conservative government approved a pipeline to Tidewaters, the Northern Gateway Pipeline, which the Liberals then defeated and destroyed, giving massive power to the Americans to monopolize our oil. Will the Prime Minister, who promised to act with unimaginable speed 8 months ago, finally stand up for Canadian workers and confirm that he will approve a pipe to the top?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, our government fully understands the ultimate jurisdiction for interprovincial pipelines rests with the federal government. At the same time, our government has been clear that a proponent for a major project, for it to be designated, we expect it to work with the impacted jurisdictions and with First Nations. Mr. Speaker, they don't understand that. The Premier of Alberta understands that. They want to work with us.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it really is pathetic that the Prime Minister cannot stand in his place and defend his position. He's afraid to defend the fact that on Thursday he will not sign on to a new pipeline. He will sign on to a public relations stunt while planning to hide behind the Premier of BC and abdicating his unique constitutional responsibilities. If he wanted a pipeline, if he no longer believed in the keep it in the ground extremist ideology that he supported for 10 years, then he would stand up today and say that he will approve a pipe to the Pacific. Will he?
Light yet to answer the question. I'm waiting for it to get a little quieter.
You don't control this, Speaker.
Yeah, like the Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition doesn't seem to understand how to get a pipeline built. The Premier of Alberta does. Is working with this government to build Canada strong, Mr. Speaker.
Of the Opposition.
Speaker, the question was for the Prime Minister. He's here in Ottawa today. He has the ability to stand up and state his position. He claimed that he was going to act with unimaginable speed. Here we are 8 months later, and he refuses to state whether he even supports a new oil pipeline or whether he'd like to continue to pump that oil at discounts to the United States of America while Canadians pay the price. What does it take to get a pipeline approved by this Prime Minister? Does it have to be a Brookfield pipeline?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Speaker, natural resources projects, interprovincial resource projects, there are indeed a great deal of those. The federal government has a unique role and must ensure that our obligations to First Nations, our obligations to other provinces, to communities, to consulting are present and those conditions are met, and then we are able to proceed. The Leader of the Opposition, now that he's standing right there, may want to stand up and say, what part of that process would he not respect, Mr. Speaker?
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I don't respect the idea of standing in the way of Canadian energy workers and giving our oil to the Americans at a discount. What we would do is get the government out of the way and get the project built. The Prime Minister has the unique constitutional opportunity to do that. Section 9210 of the BNA Act makes it exclusively a federal decision. This Prime Minister is hiding under his desk rather than answering the question. 8 months after promising that he would take unprecedented action with unimaginable speed, he's done nothing. Why doesn't he get out of the way?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Nonsense. We have dozens of major projects in play and understudy, and we are building the country at unimaginable speed. We are creating opportunities for energy workers, for young people, for housing, for steel, lumber, aluminum, and autos in this country. That is what we are doing. What is shocking is that the Leader of the Opposition stands in his place and somehow pretends in his whole fake way that he's going to override and steamroll the rights of Canadians that have a right to have a say in these projects. We're going to give them a say. He won't.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
While the Prime Minister hides under his desk, he puts up his House Leader to rant and rave and pump his fists in the air. This Prime Minister said that we faced an existential crisis requiring that we act with unimaginable speed. And here we are 8 months later, and he doesn't even have the courage to tell Canadians whether he supports a pipeline that would allow us to go around the American monopoly of our energy and get our product to the world. So will he finally stand up for workers, stand up in this House, and answer the question, a pipeline or a pipe dream?
Speaking of ranting and raving, I asked the Leader of the Opposition yesterday. Two significant things were said by members of his caucus last week. Number one, the member for Calgary Midnapore suggested the Prime Minister was disloyal to Canada. Secondly, the member for Northern Rockies repeated MAGA claims that immigrants were the cause of economic slowdown in Canada. He should stand in his place right now and apologize for those comments. Take those members to task and do something for them.
I can't imagine what we have in store for Wednesday. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it's not us that question the loyalty of the Prime Minister. He's the one that is blocking a pipeline that would allow Canada to become energy independent, to reach markets outside of Canada, while he and his company invest in pipelines in the Middle East and in Latin America. He's the one that forces Canadians to spend more on taxes than on food, clothing, and shelter combined, while he stashes his cash in a Bermuda tax haven above a bicycle shop. So if he wants to say that he's Canada first, why doesn't he stand up in this House and start acting like it?
Thank you, Pierre Poilievre, for a masterful job yesterday in question period. I appreciate it very much. Pierre Poilievre, MP, Battle River Crowfoot, Albertan from Calgary. I appreciate you speaking up on behalf of Alberta and Albertans. And I think that Pierre Poilievre is as skeptical of this so-called memorandum of understanding as I am. And I don't think he thinks there's going to be a pipeline until the government commits. And the only way the government is going to commit to this is if the Conservatives become the government. The other thing you need to understand about what's going to happen tomorrow is this. The only way this pipeline will go to the West Coast is if Danielle Smith agrees to putting a giant pipe into the ground to collect carbon dioxide. It's called the Pathways Project. And what's been glossed over about this project, and Danielle Smith has talked about this herself, is this is $10 to $20 billion in wasted money.
But the Pathways project is an expensive project. It would cost anywhere from $10 to $20 billion to get built. And to make the economic case for that, having more egress with more barrels to be sold to Asia is the way to pay for it. If we had a 1 million barrel a day pipeline going to the Northwest BC coast, that would generate about $20 billion a year in revenues.
$10 to $20 billion to bury carbon dioxide in the ground in order for us to get a pipeline to the West Coast, which accomplishes absolutely nothing. This is lost revenue. And nobody talks about it like that. Oh, we're just going to spend $10 to $20 billion to bury carbon dioxide, which is quite dangerous, by the way. And the other thing is this. I mean, the government of Canada owes Alberta hundreds of billions of dollars in lost revenue over the last 10 years for pipelines that weren't built. And one pipeline will not be enough, even if he says we'll get it. But I don't think we'll ever see a shovel in the ground. Thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. I will see you in the next one.